Hello and welcome to the Academy Countdown here at The Runner, a show where we talk about all the films nominated for Best Picture at this year's Oscars. Today we're looking at Chloe Zhao's Hamnet, and for that I'm joined by a very special guest.
Hi, Penny Lenae here, also works in The Runner in various positions, but yes, I'm also an English major, so talking about Hamnet is on point for me.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And what an interesting movie. I mean, like, previously we looked at One Battle After Another, this huge bombastic piece, and now we're looking at Hamnet, this so much a slow burn family period piece drama.
Yeah.
Like,
you're talking about Eternals, the movie before, like bombastic piece.
No, we're talking about One Battle After Another, one of the other Oscar winners, the one we looked at last episode.
Oh.
Previous episodes.
Yeah.
And so it's just like, this is such a mellow but also such a heavy film.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Really heavy. And I know, like you mentioned before about the stages of the grieving process, which I didn't make the connection. Because when I was watching it, I was more focused on the play of Hamlet, because I've read Hamlet before. Hamlet's confusing as it is. And then to see it linked or portrayed in that way, like in the film, when Agnes, was watching the play and she was confused by it, that literally mirrored my experience as well. Because I'm like, it doesn't make sense. Mm-hmm. But seeing the background in their relationship and the pieces from the play that she took and connected, it kind of like started to make sense of why he wrote, which is like also speculated. We don't know, for sure that he wrote, Hamlet off of his son, it was said. Yeah. Yeah,
and to make it clear, as we enter and dive into this movie, the movie Hamnet is about the making of the play Hamlet, William Shakespeare's classic. And it's all about kind of the internal aspect of what happened around Shakespeare's life that caused him to create the play, which is interesting because as much as this is kind of known as, like, when you walk in, you're thinking, oh, this is the Hamlet movie, it very much isn't about William Shakespeare. It's very much about his wife, Agnes.
Who also is a witch.
Yes, that is quite the interesting aspect of this film, where you expect this to just kind of be a modern, classical period piece, but it's very much not. It plays with a lot of ideas that go more into, like, speculative nature of the era with, like, witchcraft and all that, to where it immediately points out the almost taboo nature of it all. I mean, we see at the beginning, Shakespeare is already in a world where he is kind of like looked down upon as he's trying to go into this art and culture-based practice instead of his family, who are all, I believe they're carpenters in the film. Yeah. And they're very much looking down upon his way of, like, choosing to write stories instead of, like, providing a tangible thing. Yeah. And then it's only compounded further when he decides to devote the love of his life and give that to this woman who practices witchcraft, which is a very sketchy thing, especially in that time. It's very culturally frowned upon.
Yes, in that era as well. I loved the fact that they had brought, like, the witchcraft in it. I don't know. I felt like it added a little bit to it. Mm-hmm. But speaking of how you're talking about Shakespeare coming in and them getting together, did you know that Shakespeare was 18 and she was 26?
By when this movie takes place?
In real life.
Wow, that I did not know that.
In real life. Shakespeare was 18 when he met her.
Really?
And then they got pregnant. And, they married. So that was something that I think is also, I just thought that was interesting because I was like, what?
That is interesting, definitely. I mean, it kind of plays with, like, it was very much old in the past. So, like, I mean, people live to, like,
Yeah.
40s.
But I also think like that would like maybe the age difference as well was probably one of the reasons why she understood that he was not doing okay. Like in the movie he was not doing okay. He needed to go and do what he was passionate about, and she was like very open about that and very, like for him going and doing that. So I think that also kind of ties in. So there are certain things that we know about like historically about Shakespeare and his life, and little tidbits in the movie that are very like stone in that. And then you have like, was Agnes or Anne, like, can we talk about the changing of the name?
Yeah, well, because I mean famously Shakespeare's wife is Anne Hathaway, which is very different from the Anne Hathaway that we know today. But in this movie, she's called Agnes. And I wonder if that is supposed to kind of be a suspension of disbelief to kind of, like, take us away from our kind of predisposed, like, knowledge of Shakespeare's time, and to kind of let us, like, maybe, like, Chloe Zhao is her way of saying, like, this is not the story of William Shakespeare the man. This is story of Will, the character that is writing Hamlet in this story, and Agnes, the character, to where as much as this does pull from real life, it also does very much its own thing.
Yeah, because we don't know if Anne Hathaway was actual witch.
Yeah,
so maybe, but Agnes is.
Yeah, we know that for a fact.
Yeah.
And another thing is that while there is witch, and there's practicing witchhood this time, the thing about this is that magic in this world exists, which is another thing that's very interesting for a direction to take in this movie.
I'm so for magic. That was like honestly like one of my like favorite parts, where I was like, oh wow, like the magic in it, Yeah. Did you like that or no?
I thought it was interesting. I thought it took me aback, but I wasn't like hating it. I wasn't like destroying my suspension of disbelief, like, oh, I can't take this seriously anymore. I thought it was a very interesting device, and like the way that they used it and how it played with the children and Shakespeare and Agnes, and especially how it mixed this magic with even ideas of prophecy, because a lot of stuff happens in this movie, and Agnes, the character, is very much taken aback by it, because she's like, no, that's not how it works. I mean, like an example is she has it in her mind, set in stone, that it has been foretold that she is to have 2 kids.
Yeah.
And so by the point when she's having her second kid, it turns out that she's having twins, and she is beside herself, and she's so in for tradition to where it's almost this clash between these alternative ideas and these modern colloquial ideas, where she's giving birth to her second and third child, and she's screaming. She is begging to be let out to go and have her child out in this like river, this bank where she like is set to have it, and she fears that going against this will go against her own like belief system and her own ideologies, and would cause a downfall in the future.
And what like she was taught as well, because in one of the scenes, I think in the beginning, her mom had told her to pay attention to her dreams, which, did you also notice in the movie where after she had Hamnet, I don't know, there was a moment where Will was holding him, and like, like the dark doorway, or where the tree is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? At the full circle of that and the ending, to where the character goes through the dark doorway from the play of Will, you know what I mean? Like the foreshadowing in it was crazy, because I always thought like from the beginning of this movie that it was kind of eerie, like the way that the movie was also shot, very beautiful, peaceful in nature, but it also had like this kind of darkness to it.
Yeah, it was very much like a foreboding kind of terror just beyond the screen. Yeah, no, I get what you mean. Yeah. And I think there is a lot of good. Talking about the film's kind of production, there's a lot good about it. I think the film is very pretty. It has very pretty shots, very good color. I mean, Agnes is wearing this red dress throughout the whole movie, and it's so much, it pops. I mean, there's nothing else red in the entire movie. It's like such a...
I didn't even notice that.
It's such an interesting scene. And then it's like how you kind of signify like her. And then, but my problem with this movie, one thing I noticed, which I thought was kind of funny, is I thought the camera work was a little weird at times. I thought
Yeah.
the amount of times where we're looking at like a shot and like say this is where the action is, there's like the camera's up here. I was watching this with someone else and we pointed out that it looks like security camera footage. Like the way these craning down angles, they're very unorthodox, very much like not a normal thing that we see when we like look at and watch movies, but they use this kind of stock standard like angle for their shots so many times, and I think it's kind of funny.
I think it's like, no, I really wish that I would have noticed that specifically at that angle. The only thing that I can kind of think of is like the aspect of like us watching the movie as like third person, right? So it's kind of like taking us out again, like
Because I remember you specifically see it like the scene where Agnes and Will kiss for the first time. You're looking up in the corner of that shed. When she's having her kids, it's up in the corner where she's like giving birth.
Oh, yeah.
When he's saying goodbye to his son, they're doing like the whole byes are walking behind the buildings. It's that same kind of downward craning shot, and it's just like it was so like jarring because they kept using it. I thought it was just kind of like a funny thing.
I am actually kind of curious of like what the mindset is behind that, because I swear I didn't realize it until you mentioned it, and now I'm like going back in my head and like yeah. And when he's like also like walking through like the village.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's I don't know. I just thought it was such a unique angle and such a used angle in this movie.
No, it's very, very odd. Very odd.
And I mean, another thing that we have to talk about with this movie is how like it's kind of funny because this is like a Shakespeare movie, but like I was shocked at how much this movie was a tragedy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, because Shakespeare is known for his tragedies.
Of course,
a lot of his plays are very, but I think they clock on a lot of things that I think most people don't necessarily talk about. And I don't want to get into like his other plays, but I think in this specifically, like going back to that original point that you had about grief, there are so many different ways that you can look at the grieving process within this movie. You can look at the grieving process from them losing their child, and also the grieving process of their relationship and how there's distance in between it. Because what was the grieving process again?
It's denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance.
Yeah. So that, at least from like that anger, you know, and I can't remember if when their son had died, if it was before or after that scene when they're in the kitchen, and it's not a shot like this.
Yeah, it's straight on.
It's a straight on shot like this. But she was angry at him for leaving. So I don't know. I feel like even in Shakespeare's plays, there are so many different ways that you can see him really emphasizing the grieving process within multiple characters, but also within different situations. And I think the movie very, very well portrays that 100%. And that also didn't click until you had mentioned something. I was like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, and it also, I think it does a really good job in playing with the isolation that comes with grief. Because, I mean, it's heartbreaking. I mean, Agnes is going through all of this pain, all of this suffering, and then the person that she's committed her entire life to is having to go through his own version of his own like grief finding and like resolution, but because their ways of allowing themselves to heal is so different, it's almost even more compounding that sense of damage to Agnes herself.
That was something that was like really, really sad, was from her perspective, the way that she was so okay with him leaving, you know what I mean? That's like a process on its own, you know? And so, like, you pushing, you know, the person that you love to go do what they love and are passionate about, and then that distance is created, and then you're having to show up in every way, but at the same time, it's like, she didn't want to move there, you know? Even, like, within, like, he said, oh, I'll buy you land. Like, I'll buy you land, you know? So I do feel like within these periods of isolation, it's I don't feel like I ever felt that they were fighting against each other with like breaking up. It was more of like a like we're going through this and it kind of sucks, you know, but there wasn't one time where she was like move back here or stop going. Correct me if I'm
No,
wrong.
I
Did
don't.
she ever say that?
I think she gets mad at him when he leaves again.
Yeah,
the second time.
which is natural.
But I think it's just like it's about how they go about this differently. Because I mean, Agnes to herself, she feels that the last thing that she needs is more change in her life. She needs to take this time to allow everything to settle.
Yeah.
And Will, he has to try and get away from it all, which I thought was just like such a.
I don't know if it's the fact that he has to get away from it all. I think the fact that he has this passion and the way that where his happiness lies just happens to be in London.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And where she feels more comfortable, even like in her craft, right? Like she's around nature. She has her herbs. She has everything that her mother taught her of holistic healing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like she's worried about her daughter and her children's health, and like, which is crazy because the juxtaposition between the nature world and the city world, it makes sense why she did not want her kids to be there because everybody was sick.
Yeah, like when they finally go to London, it is crazy. It was almost like conditioning with how much like lush green. I didn't realize how much was emphasized in the first half of this film until it's all just taken away from you. I mean, we see Will's like living quarters, and they're very gray and very like
when he
dingy
has like the
brown.
big house, and yet he's living like
but he like confides himself into this tiny little area just so he can kind of push all of his emotions to the forefront to create what does become one of, if not his most famous works.
Yeah, and also her stepping into his world and seeing how much of an impact and how well that he's done, you know, I think that was also like a realization that she had, because that's a completely different world that she didn't even know. So they were, like your point previously about them grieving in isolation and their own versions of isolation, also kind of definitely emphasizes the fact that they had their own worlds within those isolations, you know, which was just beautiful because I think it connects on such a, I think like a humane level of what happens in like everyday life.
Yeah,
you know
no,
what I mean?
of course. And I mean, going now, I think we're entering the final act of the film. And for anyone who hasn't seen this film, I think the final act is really what ties the entire movie together.
100%.
I mean, it's when Agnes finally goes to see his play, and it's such good acting for Jessie Buckley's part. It's so,
I agree.
like, to be able to kind of give off such a sense of like just like curdling, embarrassing acting.
I was gonna say I had like secondhand embarrassment, like when she was,
because like she's watching Hamlet and she's like voicing out loud her emotions while watching the play, and like coming to terms and like realizing as she's watching it how much of her life and like struggles with her and Will are bleeding onto the stage. And she's like vocalizing, and like all of the audience members are like, oh my god, like quiet down,
because they also don't know that that's her.
And it goes to show like how much like the individualization of it, like how this means everything to her, but all these people are just trying to watch a show.
Yeah, they're not connecting it. Like I shouldn't laugh, but like about like her reaction to it, but it's because first of all, like I said earlier, I can relate to her and her reaction to it because it was confusing, but also in a way that she was experiencing emotionally and mentally her son, but it wasn't her son, you know? So like seeing her connect that, and it was just like,
and then it's almost like, because I mean obviously in Hamlet passes away.
Yeah.
And so we get to see her connect and almost like see her son again. And then in the play, when he dramatically falls to the ground, lays his hand out, she grabs it. And then Will's watching from the wings also. Yeah. And so it's almost like because their son was so taken abruptly from them before,
Yeah.
both of them are able to, in that moment, see their son in this actor.
Yes.
And then they're finally able to give their final rites and say their final goodbyes. And so when the final scene of the movie is her finally smiling, a thing that she hasn't done for like 90 minutes at this point, it like finally puts into perspective that like this has been a process to allow people to move on.
Yeah.
And through doing all the actions that have taken place by Agnes and by Will in this movie, both of them have succeeded in their plights to move on.
Yeah. It's like that final ending of closure.
Yeah.
One thing that I noticed that I want to see if you notice as well, you know her thing that she does.
I don't. I'm not.
Agnes, like in the movie, that's how she, you know, like foretells or foresees, is the way that she grabs. Like she like grabs the hands and it's like right here.
Really?
Did you notice that?
I didn't.
So near the end when Will dies and she puts her hand
Hamlet?
out. Or Hamlet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, my bad. Will doesn't die. Will doesn't die. When Hamlet dies, and she puts her hand out, the actor that's playing her son grabbed her hand like this.
Oh, wow.
And I'm wondering if that was intentional, because I'm like, imagine how long it took for Will to, like, even the scene of him making the character like go over and over and over the line, you know, because he's like, you're just saying it.
Yeah.
I'm wondering how much information the characters know about Will's personal life, or if that was just like a little Easter egg that the director put in there, because I'm like, there's no way that this actor that's playing her son knows that she does that. Like Agnes herself like does that to her children, to her husband, you know what I mean? So yeah, I was just wondering if you knew, because that I was like, is that like intentional?
No, and so I mean, this movie has a lot to say. I mean, I think it's earned its flowers. I mean, the movie's nominated for 8 Oscars. From costume design to casting to Best Actress for Buckley. I mean, it's truly amazing stuff, and I wouldn't be surprised if it walks away with 1 or 2 or even a few like statuettes at the end of the day.
I think it should, especially, mind you, like this is like a 2-hour plus film.
It's like 2:30, 2:45.
Yeah, and my experience, because I watched it in theater, which by the way, there was like nothing but old people. But yeah, like for a 2.5 hour film, like it definitely should be winning multiple areas, because I didn't notice it was like that long.
No, it has a lot of legs to stand on, and again, with every movie that passes, I'm more intrigued, and it gets more cutthroat to see what's going to happen on March 15th when we see the Oscars.
Yeah,
like it'll be truly phenomenal.
I'm excited. I really hope it gets some traction for sure.
I think that is all the time that we have. So for me, I've been Zachary Trevino, opinions editor for The Runner.
I am Penny Lenae. I have a segment on the podcast, A Penny for Your Thoughts.
All right, and thank you for tuning in for this episode of the Academy Countdown.
Bye.